What's up, it's Auto Handles, and in today's video we're going to be talking about John Collins. Before we can get into the video, be sure to like and subscribe. Let's begin. It's becoming more and more clear that John Collins' time in Utah is coming to a close. Jazz head coach Will Hardy emphasized during Media Day that the organization is focusing on its younger players' development, signaling a new direction for the franchise. This pivot towards youth has resulted in Collins losing his starting position, and we're already seeing a decrease in his minutes compared to his 28-minute average last season. This shift leaves Collins, a seasoned 27-year-old, in a challenging situation. Following his 2023 trade from the Atlanta Hawks, Collins hoped to find a solid footing in Utah. However, the Jazz's shift in priorities has complicated that. His reduced role makes the prospect of a trade seem increasingly likely. In my opinion, it's any day now. The only thing stopping the Utah Jazz from dumping off Collins in his contract is that there is little market interest for Collins. His trade value is negatively affected by his inconsistent performance across his stints with the Hawks and Jazz, and of course his hefty contract. With an annual salary of $26.5 million and 2 years remaining, many teams would hesitate to take on the financial burden, especially given that Collins will likely exercise his player option to stay on the books for another season. This financial structure limits the Jazz's flexibility in trade negotiations, as any deal would likely require Utah to add draft picks or other assets to make it viable, something unlikely in the midst of a rebuild. To be honest, Collins is holding back a franchise that I think is attempting to turn to a hopeful direction. Meanwhile, John Collins is directionless, and his lack of commitment is what causes him to put the Jazz in a far worse position than what they would be in without him. It boils down to the fact that he isn't acting with a purpose. Ever since his days with the Hawks, he's been a lob threat, and to this day, if you say the name John Collins, most NBA fans are going to think about the athleticism that he brings. But the problem with that is, I think he could be much more than that. Obviously, he's trying to improve as a shooter, and he's already a proven rebounder, but I expect much more from a player that is going into his 8th season. He's had many opportunities, especially when he was in the perfect situation with Trae Young in Atlanta, but all of his high-flying dunks simply don't contribute to winning. On top of that, John Collins' athleticism doesn't translate to rim protection. The Jazz have to rely on Walker Kessler for that, and if you're taking up cap space, you have to be able to protect the rim. I understand John Collins is a small ball 5, but that doesn't mean when he's out there that there is no force manning the rim. To be fair, John Collins is a solid player. His play would be even more respectable if he was on a smaller deal, but his contract is terrible and the rest of the league knows it. John Collins averaged 15 points, 1 steal, 1 block, and 2 assists last year. His production last year in comparison to this year will probably drop in his reduced role. The Jazz organization is probably going to move on from John Collins. I think an interesting trade destination for him is in LA with the Lakers. A trade between the Jazz and Lakers would probably look something like this. The Lakers received John Collins and Jason Preston, and the Jazz received Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt, and Cam Reddish. This trade makes sense contractually, but I'm not sure if either team would want to go for it. This could be a potentially good trade for the Lakers because the addition of John Collins adds depth to their front court as Anthony Davis is injury prone, and Jason Preston is someone that JJ Redick can develop, and Preston is a no-drama player that is just focusing on making improvements. The Jazz might be interested in this trade because they can get Gabe Vincent, who brings valuable experience to the table, Jared Vanderbilt, who brings defensive intensity, and Cam Reddish, who has a lot of upside, even though his career has been underwhelming so far. But what do you think? In the trade that I proposed, did the Lakers or did the Jazz win the trade? Are there any other teams you think John Collins could fit with? Tell me in the comment section below. Until next time, peace.